Now I want to make sure that my changes are only part of a separate branch. Remember, we are still working in the main branch here, which shouldn't contain these changes at this stage. So once we created a separate branch, we now want to bring these changes to the GitHub repository. This means we want to push our changes. So let's go back to VS Code and let's quit the development server with Control Z. Let me clear this. Now I will create a new branch with git checkout -b and now the branch name, and I'll follow the branch naming conventions Max had in the last lecture. So I'll also add the feed / and now the name of the changes implemented in this branch, and I will simply call it cart. With that in place, we should have a new branch. Yes, we can see this via git branch. Yeah, we have two branches, main, and currently we are in the feed / cart branch. And now, before we push any changes, we of course have to commit these changes. So we'll again run git add dot to add all the untracked files, changed files into our commit, into the staging area to be more precise here. So this is step 1. And now we'll add a commit with a commit message. So git commit -m, and we call it added cart modal. So the commit is done and was successful. Let's clear this once again. And now we'll push this new branch to our remote repository with git push origin and the branch name, which is feed / cart. Let's see if this works now. And this is not working here because, we saw this already when Max tried to push his changes. We can either use the VS Code GitHub extension to manage the sign into GitHub. We don't want to do this, so we press cancel here. And now we need a username, which I have, so this wouldn't be the problem. But the problem then is that, we again need actually a personal access token to access, the repository or the GitHub account, which holds this repository at the moment. The problem we have, though, is, if you remember, at the moment, I am not related to this project, to this repository in any way. Max, in his personal user account, added this repository, and I just, cloned it, as it's a public repository, and added some changes here. This means adding my username and the personal access token to my personal user account won't help us here. What helps, though, is that, Max could add me as a collaborator to his project.
So, back to me, Max. Manuel worked on his new feature, the cart, which he added to this project, but as he explained, he's not able to push to this project because it's my repository here on GitHub, and Manuel is not part of my organization. This isn't even an organization account to begin with, and he's also not a collaborator of this repository, so therefore he won't be able to push to it. So what I could do here is I could, of course, go to my settings and create a new personal access token, or use my existing token if I still remember that, and share that with Manuel. Then he would be able to use that token to push to my project, but he would be pushing with my account in the end, not with his account. This is something you typically don't want to do. You don't want to share your personal access token with other people because there are better ways for collaborating. For example, in this repository where I want to give access to Manuel, I can of course go to the settings of this repository, and there under Manage Access, I can add a collaborator. I can invite Manuel as a collaborator. Now here I'm just going to type Manuel's GitHub username, which is this one here. This is his personal account, which he created for this course and which he wants to use for this project. And therefore now I'm going to invite him to this repository. Now with that, as soon as he accepts that invite, he will be able to collaborate on this repository even though I own it. So then he will be able to directly push into this repository and of course also to pull from it and do all these Git related things you learned about. Now, therefore, that's my part finished already. The next step is for Manuel to push his changes before we then can merge our different feature branches into the main branch and then proceed with this project.
So it's my turn again, Manu, I'm back, and I'm logged into my GitHub account already. This means I accepted Mac's invitation. You saw this process already in the last course module, so you simply get an email invite, then you accept it with the account that was invited. And in here now, on my overview page, so to say, I can now see that I have access to the React.js food order repository. I can also select this repository, of course, see the code, and so on. I can't change the settings though, for example, here. These are, options only available for Max as the owner, but I have the access I need to, push my commit, my code to this repository. Nevertheless, to do so, I need two things now. One thing is I need to add my username to, the interface, so to say, in Visual Studio Code. So up here, you know your username probably. If that's not the case, you can find it up here in your profile. So this is my username in here. So let me quickly add this. So, and confirm it with enter. And now we need to enter the password. And this is also something Max explained already. Here, it's not recommended and also will no longer be supported in the future to use the GitHub password here. Here you should use your personal access token. This means we have to create such a token now, this time of course in my account. As you know, as I am now a collaborator in Mac's project, I only need access to my GitHub account via GitHub by using this personal access token. And with that, I can then, interact with the remote repository Max owns. So again, back in my profile here, and let's go to settings and scroll down a bit to the developer settings. Then go to the personal access tokens. And in here, I will now generate a new token. So we'll do this right here. And I'll call it React JS food app access. Something like this. It can expire in 30 days. That's okay. And actually what you only need is, the repo access, so to say. And all the other options are actually not required at this stage. In case we need more access, we can of course also add another personal access token later. So let's generate this token and copy it right here. Go back to Visual Studio Code and paste our token. And with enter, our push now hopefully is successful. Yeah, this looks good already. We created a new branch in this remote repository. So let's also have a look at this on GitHub now. So I'll simply go back to starting page here, then access the repository. And in there, we now see the information that we have two branches in here. And if I check the branches, you see we have the main branch, of course, pushed by Max earlier. And we have our feature card branch. That's the branch we created here in my project on my machine, so to say. And if we select the branch, we of course have all the corresponding commits and so on, all part of this branch. So this is how we can collaborate on such a level. So this means Max, as the owner, created the repository, pushed the main branch, we cloned this main branch, added some changes, created a separate branch, and then pushed this branch to the remote repository via our personal access token. What's missing here, of course, now is the merging part, because Max also implemented some changes in his branch, and this branch is not pushed to our repo here at this stage. Therefore, I'll hand over back to Max again.